Hey, what's up, Zach here, and today I've got the Asics Metarise 2, and I got to apologize to Asics. I was unfamiliar with your game. Let's get into them. Now, all Shaq Diesel quotes aside, these were some of the most unique, interesting, and honestly, specific use case shoes I have put on maybe ever. Now, obviously these are marketed as volleyball shoes, although a lot of basketball players do wear these. These kind of have like a cult following in the basketball space as well. And no matter if you are playing basketball or volleyball, there are some just super unique features in these that I think a lot of basketball players are gonna like, a lot of volleyball players are gonna like. Some people are going to hate, but you can't deny just how cool they really are. Now, starting off in the uppers, this might seem like a really small thing, but the fact that this distal lace eyelet right here, these last two lace eyelets are reinforced, this little bit of plastic, just shows you the care that's taken into just each individual part of this shoe. Now, these last two are outrigger lace eyelets, however, everything else is just reinforced. As you go up the lace line though, in terms of the most proximal two lace eyelets, they are padded. So when you tie the lace line around your ankle, you're actually getting all that padding molding around your ankle, which gives you such a nice, comfortable, secure feeling of lockdown. Had zero heel slippage in these, obviously. I mean, really, these better not have any heel slippage. You've got padding on the outer side of the shoe, and then these actually do have a secondary booty liner or a slipper tongue underneath of it. However, the lace eyelets go through the outer portion, so you're kind of getting a hybrid booty liner and traditional three-piece tongue, kind of like the Adidas Harden line. What that does is it gives you that really nice, comfortable glove-like fit, but also the security, kind of the ruggedness of the three-piece. Plus, in Asics' case, which I think is just fantastic, they use that opportunity to, number one, pad up the slipper tongue or the booty liner, and then also pad up the outside layer of the shoe, right? The traditional three-piece tongue layer, the traditional ankle collar of the shoe too. So you're getting two levels of padding just sucking around your ankle, which is just fantastic. Now, the one thing I will warn you is the tongue is just razor thin, right? It's just elastic. Now, the thing is on my right side, I could crank these down to Kingdom Come, had no problems. On my left side, which is a little bit higher arched, my ankle is a little more prominent, I had really bad lace irritation to the point where I could not use them unless I, just loosened it up. Once I loosened it up, it was absolutely fine. I still had no heel slippage, but if you are somebody prone to lace irritation, just make sure in these that you kind of take your time setting up your lace situation. If you do, like I said, you will be just fine. Now, these things on the breathability test, they heated up 106.4 degrees, which it's in that better end of shoes, right? It's decent, it's not super elite. And you look at the breathability mapping of them though, and fog is just pouring out of these, like the second the fog machine goes off. And I was kind of wondering, I'm thinking like, well, where is the heat being trapped in these? I think it's because there is just so much padding in them. As you get into the forefoot, you do get two levels of padding as well, and it's just basically really open, weaving in the forefoot. But in terms of actual egress of heat and moisture, they're absolutely fantastic. And you look at these things on the upper durability test, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, this is what really just absolutely blew me away. The burr, you can barely see what it did to this. This drag guard is so tough on these ones, the toughest I've ever seen in a shoe that is not specifically urethane or rubber. It's just fantastic, and it's not uncomfortable by any means. It's malleable, it's comfortable. So really all around in the upper is just a ton of innovation. It's just a ton of things that I just love to see and love to talk about. But getting into the midsole teardown, this is at the same time one of the craziest midsoles I've ever seen, and at the same time, one of the most plain. Is just a dual density FF Blast Plus. These are EVA foams. And then you have a shank that goes all the way from the proximal end of the midfoot all the way into the forefoot. It is double thickness though, the entire length of the midfoot. But the craziest part of the midsole is there's no drop. It's a 3.1 centimeter heel height and no drop into the forefoot. And because the angle of ascent in the forefoot, the rocker in that distal forefoot is so steep, it feels like you're in Jimmy's training shoes from Seinfeld. I don't know if you remember that one episode where Jimmy, the self-talker, had those like jump training shoes, then Kramer got the same ones. That's what they feel like. They are some of the easiest shoes to pop up off the grounding because you got it's almost like there's a platform up there for you. And we'll talk about it when we get to the performance section, kind of how it feels and kind of how you got to get used to it. But just the insanity of how these feel on foot and how they feel when you start to pop up off the ground is crazy. And I think these things on the balance height test, Again, really nothing special. 33 centimeters on the rear foot, 31 on the forefoot, and that's just probably because the influence of the shank more in the forefoot. But really, middle of the road. It's like, it's middle of the road EVA foam, really. And so it's not necessarily the foam construct, it's the geometry of the midsole, the shank, and everything else that just make these shoes, like I said, ridiculous in terms of getting up off the ground. But getting into the outsole tread, basically have one big radial pattern under the big toe joint, and then you've basically got like kind of like a webbed pattern throughout the rest of the shoe. Now the durometer in here comes at 15.25, so it's not, super hard or super soft. I was kind of right in the middle. Look at this thing on the grip test ramp with initial grip, doesn't slip till 46 degrees. And I noticed when I was on very clean courts, these things just had a tack on them like you wouldn't believe. They should. You really need that kind of stability in that grip for volleyball. But then as soon as you take them on anything dusty at all, these things pick up dust, at least for me, like crazy. If I was wiping them down, they were just fine, but you definitely need to wipe them down. These ones, to me, on a more dusty court, just need grip spray or something, right? Or like a cleaning cloth or a grip mat or something to do that. Now remember, these are meant for PVC floors. This is what they're engineered for. So those floors are obviously going to grab into these shoes a little bit better, and that's kind of the profile. That's what they're made for. But like I said, on clean hardwood, really nice grip. On dusty hardwood, dirty hardwood, even dirty outdoor courts, like the stamped concrete I have here is a little bit dusty. Even that, it was starting to go. It wasn't going, but there was enough forgiveness, so just watch out for that. Now you look at these things on the speed ratio. They come in at a 2.06, shank score of 0.3, very well earned, brings it up to a 2.36. And I kind of think that really gets it right. Going up and down the court, right, north to south on a basketball court, they are like moon shoes, crazy. It's just that quick side-to-side movements, right? More agility type speed. Not the greatest for. They're a little bit clunky. Now in volleyball, does that matter? No, right? You're trying to get up off the ground from very awkward positions, right? And you're trying to get up from squatting positions, and that's why the geometry of these is the way they are. So for that, they're fantastic, and so that really does translate to getting coast to coast on a basketball court. Just don't expect them to be the Dawn Issue 6 or the Kai 1. They're not meant for that. Now, look at these things on the outsole durability test, though. 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, and no, not even a millimeter of damage on these, just showing you that sometimes durometer doesn't matter, especially nowadays with some of these rubber compounds that have the softer durometers but resist wear so well. So honestly, these aren't terrible for outdoor courts. They're, like I said, they're meant for indoor courts. You can use them outside. Honestly, the grittier the court outside, the better, because they'll grab into it more, but then obviously you're gonna get a little bit more wear. But like I said, in terms of, especially for volleyball and really any court you play on, I think they're just fine. And for basketball, honestly, I don't think you're gonna be doing anything super shifty in these anyways, so even for basketball, they should be just fine too. I just wanna make one comment about the stopping power of these before I get into the fit. These do have a rise truss system, which is basically the same thing as the Dynawall and the Asics Gel Resolution 8 and 9 in the tennis space. It does go up pretty high in the rear foot, and what I think is more important though is it rises pretty high in the forefoot to give you a lot of stopping power in these. Remember, because these have a super high forefoot stack, you don't get a lot of feel in the forefoot. So there's not a lot of proprioception there. There's not a lot of ground feel. So you really do need that. And I was surprised at how good I felt and how confident I felt going side to side on these. Yes, they are still very clunky going side to side, but in terms of the confidence and in terms of the stopping power going side to side, that's really fantastic. And you would expect that in a shoe like this, that where people really need, because they're putting a lot of body weight sometimes on one limb, especially going side to side, getting up and down for digs, right? So it meant for one thing, but obviously good for multiple things as well. But getting into the fit of the Metarise 2, and probably one of the things that's gonna make most people wanna get these, they are mellow. They have an 11-degree inflare, 28.8 centimeter length, pretty true, and then a 9.7 centimeter metatarsal width, 10 centimeter toe box width, and then only a 25-degree taper. So all in all, just a mellow shoe. My 2E with foot was just singing in these shoes. The only thing that, like I said, that got me was my high arch, and once I kind of got the lace line to where I wanted it, that really went away too, and that's easy enough too to augment with moleskin. So I'd say a narrow and medium foot, you can go down a half size on these. The one thing I will say is entry into these is pretty tough at first, so you break them in. So They're, you know, they should be snug, but they're pretty snug. So you get on the half size, the entry is gonna be a little bit tougher, but once you break it in, it should be fine. It'd be like the Trey 1 and 2s. And then I'd say for a 2E and 4E, I just go true to size on these. That's the nicest thing about them, is you can just go true. You don't have to go up and get the length issues with going up sizes. So really fantastic. In terms of the snake bitten foot, remember these are 0 drop. Okay, so you're gonna get a little bit more eccentric loading on your Achilles. So I think they're fine as long as you have an orthotic in them for pretty much anything, like previous Achilles issues or things like that. I probably have an orthotic in them. But I mean, the stack on them is 3.1 centimeters of all that super like forgiving FF Blast Plus. If you haven't tried FF Blast Plus, it is really nice on foot. Plus you got the 4-foot shank going all the way, like I said, into the 4-foot. So anything really 4-foot pain, anything like that, they're really fantastic for. So really, they're super protective shoes. It's just, you have to be okay with the no drop. And if you're not an orthotic in there to kind of artificially create it, should do just fine. And speaking of putting orthotics in the shoes, obviously the one that I recommend the most would be Power Step. Specifically in the Metarise 2 would be the Power Step Pinnacle or Pinnacle Max. And that's because, like I've said this a million times before, Power Step has the best arch coverage on the market, better than a lot of custom orthotics. And so if you're looking for that really nice arch geometry in a shoe like this, the Pinnacle is gonna give you that, which, you know, you'd spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a custom. You can get it, this one, and, you know, for so much cheaper. And these things are just as durable as most custom orthotics as well. So if you want to get the most premium contour of your arch, really in any shoe you put on, whether it be volleyball, basketball, tennis, running, whatever, make sure you check out powerstep.com. My link in the description below. Thanks again to PowerStep for sponsoring this video. Let's get into the performance. All right, but getting into the performance of the Metarise 2, I think we kind of talked about it in the speed section. They're some of the easiest shoes to get up off the ground. Number one, just for going up for layups over and over and over again, they're really nice. But number two, when I was like kind of doing these little step backs here and then just like kind of popping up off the ground, you can really see the volleyball inspiration from having to go from a very, very low position, kind of compromised position, and get back up very quick. That's what they do kind of for step back jumpers. They're just super easy to kind of step back and pop up off the ground. That's kind of what they're meant for. If you play more up on midfoot balls of your foot, these things are just, like I said, like moon shoes. Like they're clunky though. But if you're someone that's going more north to south, you know, charging the rim, I mean, hey, fantastic. That's steps. You're someone that doesn't need any of that footwork, right? Your game does not rely on that, then, you know, these are fantastic. Someone that's had really bad forefoot pain that still wants to go play and still wants to be able to hit a jumper, absolutely out of this world. In terms of volleyball biomechanics and volleyball performance, honestly, like I said, in terms of squatting, getting back up, they're fantastic. The one thing I will say is if you are playing on more of a dirty court, like say you're going to the community center and playing, in terms of getting low to dig a ball out, the one thing I'd be concerned about is grip, right? So if you're, you know, if you don't want these things to slip out from underneath of you, make sure you're on clean courts, you have them wiped down between each point, just because I could see you kind of going down to dig something out and then just kind of slipping out and losing a little bit of force, right? Like letting the ball play you instead of playing the ball. So I'd say that's really the only thing I would watch out for these. In terms of serving on a volleyball court, I mean, these are just out of this world. Just being able to generate that much lift in that short of a period of time, right? It's not like in basketball where you've got all this time to get all this momentum down the court. In volleyball, you don't have that kind of time. You don't have that kind of area, right? You don't have that kind of surface area to do that, right? A lot of times you're very contained. And so for these people to get that much lift that quickly and that short of an area is, yeah, fantastic. And so I'd love to know if you are trying to pick these up or giving these a try on the basketball court, and if you can extract some, you know, more off-label performance out of these. Love to know in the comments down below. And if you're one of the volleyball playing members of this audience and this community, please let me know in the comments down below, because if you want more of these, you gotta let me know, because like I said, sometimes when I start to do new shoes, I really kind of take my cues from the audience to see if you really want to see them. So make sure you let me know in the comments down below. And if you want to see a shoe that's kind of, I feel like is the basketball equivalent to this shoe, the 361 AG5, obviously not the same shoe, but I think kind of meant for the same type of player, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect, Gerber, and foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.